All right, good morning, baseball and coffeeers. It is Monday, January 19th. No school today, so it's a zoo at my house. Absolute zoo. Let's say hi to Daisy. First thing in the morning, say hi to my girl. Hello. Daisy Bean, say hi to the people. Anyway, Daisy's here. Chuck will be in a couple minutes. That's right, Josh. Chuck Nasty. We'll get his thoughts on a few things. And we'll go from there. Nothing, and I mean nothing happened in baseball. Jacob Junis signed, but really not much. So we'll kick it with Chuck for a little bit. We'll talk to him, and then we'll putz around for a little bit, and we'll probably have a little bit of an abbreviated show today, probably just an hour and a half, because I got kids, I got dogs, I got all sorts of stuff going on today. So kind of is what it is today. And then Wednesday we'll be back, hopefully with some more news. I know the last show was pretty fun, though, because so much happened in such a short amount of time. But that's pretty rare right now. It's not snow day. It's just Martin Luther King Day. And in New York, you get that off. So no school today. But I got big things going on. We got a daughter with a ballet audition for a summer intensive program. So that's... Got to make sure the hair's right. Got to make sure everything's right. Got my nephew over here. Got my sister-in-law over here. They're basically helping because my wife has to take said daughter to said ballet audition. And then I have a meeting later. So whatever. It's a full day, but it's a good day to check some baseball out. So I'm gonna go ahead and check to see where my guy is. He's getting ready, but he's not quite ready for me to bring in the bearded one yet. So I want to do a little bit of recon, though. I'm curious about the Winter League stuff. There was some serious stuff happened in Lidom. There was a major controversy. I don't know if any of you have heard about it, but so Aguilas and my team, the Toros, are coming down the stretch here in Dominican. They're really, really close. And there was a situation where Aguilas beat Toros head-to-head in a game that was huge for standings. But what ended up happening was Toros complained that Aguilas used 9 imported players, and there's only an 8 that can be rostered on any given night or something like that. So there was a big issue there. And I'm not sure how it was resolved. Maybe somebody in the chat knows. But right now, Escogido's sitting pretty. They're good. In the round robin, but it's pretty close right now between these teams. So tonight we got a big one. Aguilas and Toros at 7:30 tonight. This should be a very, very exciting game tonight. I'm not sure who's on the mound, but that will be very interesting. So a little bit of controversy there. Kind of a funny scenario. What else we got here? The only international sports controversy I saw was Morocco and Senegal. Yeah, I heard about that one too. But there's a whole bunch of stuff going on in the world. Chuck says he has joined. Camera looks a little grainy. Can I see him? Yeah. Yeah, I can see you. Can I see the grain? Doesn't look so bad. Looks good enough from here. All right, I'll bring him in. Let me come right back, folks, and I'll bring in Charlie, and then we'll get this going. All right? Oh, real quick, Victoria, how do you watch the game? MLB.TV. If you have a subscription, these games are all on there. So 7:30 tonight will be a fun game. Toros and Aguilas, both 11-7 in the round robin. Pretty much winner's going to move on. You need 12 wins. So this is the big one. This is the big one. All right, I'm going to hop right back, and I'll have Chuck in just a moment. All right, time to do my little pasting magic here. Let me make sure I copied the link. Hold on. All right, Mr. Charlie Blackmon, welcome to the program. Thanks for hanging.
What's up, Otto? Good to
How
see you,
you?
bud.
It's great to see you, man. I haven't seen you in so long. I'm so happy to see your face.
Yeah, you look the same.
Well,
haven't
you know what?
changed.
You know what's funny is I got a haircut yesterday. Like, we took it back, short hair. I mean, it looks terrible now, but I had this long hair going for a while ish, and it was just too much to manage. And yesterday I got my hair cut, and my wife's like, "Oh my God, you look like Colorado Rocky Adam Ottavino. It's been a while,
Yeah, take you back, make you younger. I
I'll take that."
I used to have all that long hair, that mullet and stuff, and I didn't realize how much I was aging. And then I cut it, and now I realize like I have terrible, like it's thinning. Like it's coming for us. I'm a time fighter now.
Dude, your hair, it just evolved so much over the years. Obviously, the first it was just the beard, but then the hair got involved and it got a lot longer. And it's true, when you have that much of a mane, it does cover up some things. It's kind of hard to see what's going on in there.
It's same with my beard. Like if you just grow it long enough, it just like grows over and fills in all your patches, and then you don't really know. Like you just pure volume kind of can overcome like bad technique.
Yes, that's true. No doubt about it. That's kind of my strategy with the show. It's just pure volume. No real production, just pure volume. That's it, and let the people enjoy how it goes. So,
Consistency is a better instead of just pure volume. You're a consistent contributor.
all right. So see, you're already hitting on it.
I'm adding value.
You're adding value. You're the best. So, I mean, man, it's so good to talk to you. We have a lot of people. This is a very baseball-y show. A lot of people, a lot of kids watch. A lot of people want to know about the inside dope, what people are thinking, more along the lines of the game stuff, not the storyline, narrative type crap that you hear all over the place. More so, what tools did you use to be successful? So, one thing when I think about being having played with you for so long is kind of how you got better every single year that we played together. And a lot of it, when we would have our conversations, was improvements in mindset, improvements in what I'm thinking about, improvements in preparation. So I know it's a very general, humongous topic, but
Yeah.
overall, when you approached baseball from a yearly basis or even from a day to day basis, what was your baseline mindset as time went on?
I think it was important for me to be a good self evaluator. There was a lot of things that I knew I was good at, and there was a lot of things that I knew they were my weaknesses. And I'd say year to year, I would identify what those weaknesses were, and then try and make those better. Like for example, earlier in my career, I was much more contact oriented, couldn't really drive the ball, especially the other way. And so, came back one off season, really, really worked on trying to hit the ball in the opposite field gap with power. And I practiced that like, wait, so much. And then actually later in my career, I had to like come off of that because I couldn't pull the ball anymore. And I realized I didn't really have enough power to hit the ball the other way. I had to pull the ball. So again, that's like kind of self-evaluating, like this is great, like it's nice to hit the ball the other way, but like ultimately, like if I hit for power, it's going to be because I pulled the ball in the gap or I hit it straight down the right field line. And so that's a mechanical uh, tweak, right? That's something where I knew in my game that I could change and get better. But I would say, 90% of the self evaluation is identifying something like that in your mental game, and
Yeah.
changing that. And, I'm a big believer that you can't really play the game on purpose. You can't cerebrally choose to swing or not swing, right? You're just training your thought process because it happens so fast. Even as a pitcher, I think you basically do all of your thinking in between pitches. And then once you step on the rubber, like the train has left the station, more or less. So I'm trying to get really, really good before the train leaves the station, because once the train leaves the station, like I'm, you know, I'm just a product of how I've programmed my computer. So what I'm trying to do is make sure I'm programming it with the right code in between pitches or in between seasons or um, in between airs in the outfield. Like there's sometimes where your computer just freaking freezes up, and
Yeah.
it just you get a virus or something. You're slumping, and so I'm mostly trying to program my computer.
You said a really good thing there about how once you're in the moment, once you're in the box and the ball's on the way, the train's left the station.
Hmm.
The process is going to play out the way that you've prepared it to. I used to think about it like between pitches, I would do like a quick calculus. So like all of a sudden, I'm doing math and I'm trying to figure out what to throw. Got a million different variables in my head, but once I settle whatever that is, it's the same process. I At that point, my mantra would become very simple. It was what pitch, what location, attack that lane. That was it, and then you can't really do much after that. Takes a long time to trust that process, and I think it's funny because being a cerebral player like both of us were, we tend to spend a lot of time with our thinking caps on outside of the competition, but then you have to find a way to let that go in the moment of truth. And I think that's a really, really good nugget that you dropped right there. And I think it's even more important for hitters because it's so reactionary. But even for pitching, to your point, once I decide what I'm going to throw, I have to be convicted on it. I can't be second guessing it. I can't be saying to myself, what happens if this happens? I just have to go out there and throw the pitch to the best of my ability. So I thought that was a great nugget right there, Chuck. That was really good. People are going to like
I,
that one.
I think I'll give you two scenarios. You tell me what's more likely. Look, you're a pitcher. We'll do the pitching side. Um,
You were a pitcher too.
I was a pitcher in college, and I pitched for 3 years in college and hit for 1 year.
Yeah.
So like I developed my youth background. Whatever. I was a pitcher back in the day.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it was, one scenario is you're completely convicted and you throw the pitch that you want to throw because that's the best way to execute that pitch. The other scenario is I'm not really sure what pitch I want to throw, and then I'm not convicted, and therefore my execution suffers, right? Like that latter situation is always a problem. I felt like I can always live with myself if I was wrong. Like if I chose to look for the heater or look for a certain pitch, as long as the numbers were on my side because I did all my scouting stuff. Like I can be wrong and be okay with that. I get three strikes. But one thing that I wouldn't allow myself to do was to be indecisive, not sure whether or not I even wanted to get on that train before it left the station. And then no matter what it was I chose to do, I was waffling back and forth. And so I couldn't execute anything. So, like, it's okay to be wrong. Like, if you pick the wrong pitch, but you execute it really well, like, chances are it's still probably hard to hit a fastball on the corner or, that kind of thing. Um,
Yeah.
and it's tough. And you don't ever, like, the cool thing about baseball is you never know what the hitter's thinking. And I never know what you're thinking. And there's times where I would be looking dead red and look like a terrible hitter because I swung at a slider in the dirt because I was looking for the fastball. And then, come 3-2, I might decide, all right, he's throwing me this slider and just like bet my all chips in the middle and just bet my bat on him getting a slider. And you throw me the exact same pitch and I whack it in the gap. Like how could those two different outcomes be the same player, but you don't really know what they're thinking? It could have been two completely different approaches.
Yeah, totally. And you're probably the first hitter, and it's funny because a lot of hitters I talk to now have kind of gotten to this point, but they're willing to take an aggressive approach to be convicted on something versus a certain pitcher. They're like, look, I can't get on top of this guy's fastball. I'm going to try to swing over the ball, or I'm going to try to pull it in the dugout, or like some sort of extreme cueing to yourself that allows you to be as committed to your plan as you think you need to be. And you're probably, I mean, we had a lot of great talks. I remember on the planes and other times talking about how to hit, Kenley Jansen, or whether it be a Josh Hader, or whether it be, an adjustment like on Patrick Corbin or whatever. And it's like you're one of the first guys that would come up with a plan that at first glance people would say, really? You're going to do that? Like, I remember you facing a guy in Atlanta, and I don't remember the guy's name anymore, but he threw like 102. And you were like, look, all he's got is the fastball. I really got to get going to hit it. I'm committed to the fact that he'll get me out if he throws me something else, but I'm going to hit that fastball. And sure enough, you're able to pull that fastball because you're that committed. Just was there a breaking point in your career where you were trying to chase things pitch to pitch, and then you decided, no, I have to like fully commit to a plan, and I'd much rather go down swinging this way.
I think, yeah, there's an evolution as a player. I think most guys that have the opportunity to play in the big leagues for a while take this journey to some extent, and out of necessity. Coming up, most of the guys that play in the big leagues, super talented, really good at seeing the ball, hitting the ball, great hand-eye coordination. That's why you got there. You probably have a pretty good swing and some tools. All right, congratulations, you've like made it to the big leagues.
Yeah,
Um,
got the
and then,
prerequisite done.
yeah, like step one, make it to the big leagues. I know that's a big jump, but for your audience, they probably don't want to hear a bunch of minor league stuff. So once you get to the big leagues, it's safe to say that there's a couple different types of player. You're either the God-given uber talent who doesn't have to get any more complicated than see ball, hit ball, and you probably already know if you're that guy.
Yeah,
The superstars, right? Like you already know, or you never even had to think about it because that's just who you are. That's your identity. You're an impact player from birth. That was your chosen path. That's
like 5 guys.
yeah, like less than 5% of the big league population, right? So the rest of us schmucks, you and me, are guys who were like pretty talented and had to like figure out how to get better and put it all together. And so it was easy for me to make the jump to the big leagues and realize that I was not nearly as good as I thought I was, and that I wasn't going to be the superstar who didn't have to get any better. It's hard to quantify the jump from AAA to the big leagues, but it was night and day difference. I mean, it's very similar to the jump from amateur ball to pro ball, in my opinion. It's the biggest jump in professional baseball. So like your buddy who thinks he was a good high school baseball player that thinks he could get a hit in double A or whatever. It's like he's just as far away from getting a hit in double A as I was getting a hit in the big leagues as a good AAA player. Like that's the gap. And so I had to, you got to get better. Like you can't just see it and hit it. So I was trying to prepare as much as I could. I'm scouting, I'm watching video, and I can basically watch a pitcher pitch the week before and just assume that most of these guys are seeing it and hitting it. And if everybody's late and under this fastball, for me to think I'm just going to go out there and try and see it and hit it and crush this fastball is extremely immature. Like I'm not, my hand-eye isn't as good or better than everybody else in the league. So let's just give these big league hitters some credit and realize that it's probably a good fastball. So what am I going to do about it? I would, in that situation, I would almost feel like I was late on the 0-0 fastball. And then what adjustment do I make 0-0 to 0-1 to get on this fastball? Well, I would try and start my bat there.
Yeah, make the adjustment before it began, because that data set right there, watching other guys struggle, tells you like, hey, this fastball's got some difference to it.
Yeah. So I'm spending a lot of time scouting what is away from big league average, right? If it's big league average, I told you that's my computer, right? Like all the pitches that I've seen and reacted to has basically created a big league average computer.
Yeah, they all aggregated in your brain.
Yeah. So like in that sense, if you're a big league average pitcher, then I will just see it and hit it. But guess what? Nobody's big league average anymore. I mean, it's you've
Yeah.
got up here and you've got down here. Big league average is in the middle, but this guy doesn't exist. He gets whacked. He's in AAA.
Yep. Yep.
So you're on one extreme or the other, and you've really only got a couple options as a hitter. You can adjust your timing, you can adjust your swing, and you can try and adjust your zone. And those were like my three big factors that I would try and manipulate and pick a template for those three things and hopefully cover 80% of what that pitcher is throwing, because I can't cover everything. Like if I was really really good in my prime, like my what I could cover was bigger, right? My timing
Yeah.
gap
Of course.
and like the amount of pitches I could hit was bigger. And then as I got older, and I'd like to think my brain got better. This got smaller what I could hit, but I was picking the right places in the right
Yeah, and also as you age, you just talked
variables.
about it too before. Like all of a sudden, it's not really realistic to be thinking you're going to be hitting oppo home runs and stuff all the time. So now all of a sudden, you got to go out and get it if you want to do a little more damage. So that's an extra variable that creeps in. How much did the pitch data, the pitch movement information, what did that add to the scenario? Because I always think about it from my perspective, right? I had this sweeper kind of before the sweeper. Like people had sweepers, Sergio Romo. We face other sweepers, but obviously I threw a lot of them. And I kind of came to the realization at one point that, if somebody's going and looking at the little sheet and it says, hey, fastball 94, slider 83, but there's no movement information. It just says, oh, big slider, big looper to the left. Well, I pretty much get a free one. I pretty much get a free one almost
Yeah.
every time. And then as time went on and the hitters started understanding, I feel like the movement data a little more, maybe I got a half a free one. Like it wasn't quite as effective automatically anymore because there was a little bit more of an understanding on the other side. Did you experience any of that? Would you say that's true?
Yes, and I'll tell you why. I'm like back to the point where basically once the train leaves the station, it just happens, right? So I'm basically seeing it and hitting it, and I can manipulate what I'm thinking a little bit, but in essence, I'm never going to swing away from where my eyes tell me the ball is. So if you've got something that's really good or really far away from big league average, if your shape on your sweeper is drastically different than like the average slider, I'm going to struggle with that unless I do something about it. And it's really hard for me to tell you this 100-mile-an-hour fastball is coming, and then you just say, "Oh, it's 100. I know it's 100. I'll just hit it." Like I can't. It's really hard to just decide what I'm going to do because I'm reacting to the game. It's much better for me to see 100, try and hit it, be late, and then try and be a little earlier, and like have the experience and to see it and feel it to get there. And
Yeah,
if I'm
the foul ball
facing,
gives you more, maybe the swing and miss or the foul
yeah,
ball gives you more data to then apply
yeah.
on the next pitch. Yeah.
And so anyway, like I would try my best to recreate that in the cage. It's really hard to do with relievers. I think that's why like plus pitches as a reliever or something, they always are going to have like the best relievers are going to have a plus pitch. They're not going to be guys that are execution command guys. They're going to have something way away from big league average.
Yep.
It's really hard to prepare for that guy who may or may not come in the game. Now, if you're a starter and you have a plus pitch, say if you're starting that day and you throw your sweeper, I can go see that shape in the cage. We've got the
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 traject.
projector screen that will throw the same shape, and I'll probably miss it the first time and foul it off the second time, and there will be a whole iteration of me not being really good at it, but eventually I will get there and make my adjustments. It might take me 15 swings to hit your sweeper, but eventually I'll get there, and then I will have, in essence, like reprogrammed my computer to hit that sweeper. But if you're doing that in the eighth inning when I'm not really prepared for it, it's really hard to do that. It helps if you face that guy in the past. Like having history on a guy is huge. At least knowing what it's going to feel like gives you a chance. Like what direction to make your adjustments. But like a guy that's never faced you and you've got something far away from big league average, like it's going to be an uphill battle for that hitter.
With you just said something about familiarity, like having faced the guy before. Is a lot of that and a lot of that is a comfortability with timing or deception or where you're looking for the ball to kind of come out? Like, is that something it's just obviously there's no perfect camera angle of in the batter's box, so that's something that the experience kind of programs that computer even more powerfully.
That's the most powerful data I can have, right? Like you know, most of my pregame scouting, and I'm watching these guys. I'm basically trying to figure out what it's going to feel like for me in the box, so that I know what to do or what to change or what not to change
Yeah,
sometimes. And like having already been there, felt it, made the adjustment. That's the most valuable information. So I would like a lot of times in spring training, if it was a guy like in division, especially a guy to the pin who I don't get to see a lot. I'm trying to see 18 pitches off that guy in spring training. I'm taking a pitch, I'm taking 2 pitches. I'm trying to see everything he's got. I don't care if I, strike out in spring training. I'm trying to like bank some information, some data for the regular season. Come September when this game matters, I can go watch this at bat I had against him in spring training and be like, oh yeah, his slider like had more shape than I thought, and then remembering, okay, this is the kind of adjustment that I need to make, and
that's so
is
funny, bro.
way more important than looking at the movement data, on some computer printout. And I would, so like I realized that pretty early on, and it got kind of time consuming, but I would watch my at bats off of almost every pitcher on the staff, especially the lefties out of the pen, obviously the starter. Um, but I would watch my bats against every single pitcher on that staff day one of a series and try and remember exactly what I felt in the box and give myself the best chance of catching up or making that adjustment to get to whatever their best pitches were.
It's so funny because I remember one spring training with the Rockies where the big league game we were playing the Diamondbacks. I was scheduled to pitch, and I don't remember what year this was, so it could have been any group of coaches. But I remember them telling me, "Hey, like you should just go on the backfield today. Avoid those hitters. You're going to face those guys a lot. We got 19 games against the Diamondbacks." So I'm like, "Okay, cool, no problem." Go back to the backfield. And as I'm warming up to pitch the top of the first inning in the AAA game, I noticed that a golf cart pulls up and it's Goldie, Pollock, and like I think it was like Jake Lamb or something. And I'm just like, oh my God, like we did this to avoid this. And now these guys are gonna get these at bats off of me on the backfield. And I was like, my whole plan just got thwarted, you know. It was so
I'd
funny.
love to know if that was just their plan at 7:30 in the morning. That's where they were going, or if they saw the lineup and realized like, hey, Ottavino's going to be on the backfield. So do you want to see him? And they all decided to go back there. I'd love to know.
Those bastards. Did you ever feel like you needed to see Andrew Chafin ever again? I mean, shit, you probably faced him like 10, 11 times in 1 year.
No, no. It's funny when you do face those guys a lot, right? Like like the lefty specialist or the stopper or whatever. Like that guy where you're going to face him. It's probably going to always be a leverage situation. That's why he's in there. Um, it's runners on base. Like it's the most important at bat, right? So like
You know what's coming.
I'm obviously very very prepared. I know it's happening, but also he knows it's happening, and so then you get this weird matchup where he's not going to do what it says he's going to do 80% of the time because he knows that I'm on that and prepared for it. So he starts doing stuff that you've never seen before, like the
Hmm.
the 5% two seam inside, or like stuff that should, is a small percentage on his scouting report. He starts making it up and doing that, but it really goes against the 80% that I was game planning for. And so then it kind of becomes like a cat and mouse thing. And
We're back to square one again.
yeah, we're back to square one. Like, I don't know, what's he going to do? And then, ultimately it's going to come down to some leverage 2-2 pitch where, you, you know, you got to think he's coming back to his slider or whatever his pitch is, right? Like he's got like, you're going to throw your slider 2-2 or 3-2. Like there's no
Hmm.
way you double up on two seamers inside 2-2 and 3-2. And I've gotten myself out plenty of times, betting my bat on that. because I felt like I couldn't cover both, right? As a hitter, you just can't cover everything.
Yeah.
Having history helps you figure out exactly what it is you are covering with certain pitchers, but sometimes those guys just go way off the page, and it's harder for a
That's
pitcher
why.
to execute that.
Yeah.
But if they do it perfectly, like I would much rather them have to make up a new pitch that isn't one of their strengths and beat me with it with execution,
Yeah.
on the corner. Like I kind of felt like I've won if they're trying to make up a new pitch to get me out. But if he
Yeah.
comes in and Adam Ottavino throws me a 2-2 slider, well, because that's his pitch, and I'm completely like beaten by it, like that's just me being a bad baseball player. Like that's what he wants to throw. That's his best pitch. Like I got to take that away from him.
Yeah, like in the old days of the NL West, like we'd face obviously these teams over and over and over and over again. And I'm a matchup guy. I'm facing Goldschmidt, Posey, guys like that over and over again. I would try to identify like who is somebody that's gonna sit in a percentage count, who is somebody that's gonna be trying to game plan for me, and then do I have to go off the menu? I used to call it going off the menu. So it's like, yeah, my game is sinker slider. But I have these other pitches too. I have like a little cutter. I have a four seam I can throw. I developed a changeup later in my career. It's like those pitches were just to get you off the scent, or when I was worried that you were all over what I was doing. Like, and that's what I always preach to the young guys. Like dominate with your main game. Like if you're a pitcher, like you know, perfect your game. Like if you're a four seam curveball guy or whatever, perfect your game. The other pitches, like I know you want to make them all great and change your identity because that's what every pitcher wants to do, but they're really just there for certain circumstances. And to be honest with you, the hitter has kind of won if they're forcing you to go off of what you do. So just kind of understand that. Remember who you are as a player at all times. I was curious a little bit about, we were talking about, you're anticipating shapes, right? But you had the added difficulty of the home road situation, obviously, with the altitude. The shape is changing. It's about, I
Hmm.
don't know, 70 to 80% at Mile High, and a full 100%, which probably perceives as even more than that coming off of Mile High when you go back to sea level. Was that an additional little variable that you would work into your brain ahead of time, or is it something you try to put out of your mind?
I think we tried early on to just ignore it. I didn't feel like that was the right decision, um, because, and I'll tell you why. And I think this is part of the reason why. Yes, playing at altitude course field, it's more offensive, but I think it's not as easy as that. I think whatever you gain by playing at Coors Field, I think you give back at least that much on the road. And here's why. We've kind of established, my brain is a computer. What I see is what I'm going to swing at. So let's take two pitches. Let's say your sweeper at Coors Field versus your sweeper uh, in New York. What I see as a hitter is the same arm speed, the same release point, the same spin. Those two pitches are going to start in the same place with all the same inputs. They're going to end up probably laterally 6 inches apart,
That's
and
significant.
vertically probably another 6 inches, right?
Yeah.
And they're going to get there at different speeds. At altitude, balls don't slow down as much, and there's not as much air resistance to like grab like spin pitches.
Yeah.
So yeah, like if you played every single game at Coors Field, it would be great, right? Like
Yeah.
nothing moves as much. Like yeah, fastballs kind of stay fast, but it would be a great situation. The problem is if I see something enough, I can hit it, right? Like if you throw 100, like I'm gonna figure out how to hit it, and it won't take that long, as a big league player.
Yeah.
Uh, Problem is I saw that pitch at home, and then the very next day I'm in New York, and the same exact things that my eyes tell me put the ball in a completely different spot. And
Yep.
how long is it going to take me to like recalibrate my brain?
Yep.
At least one full game, sometimes two. I did some research on it. After I had played at home for a full series and then went on the road, my first game on the road, my OPS was 100 points lower than games 2, 3, 4, and beyond.
Yep.
So like there's an obvious like it's different. Um, and in the same token, coming back to Coors Field isn't just as easy as saying, "Oh, I'm back. It's great." It's like, no, well, now I'm used to this big, huge shape that I was seeing from Ottavino slider in New York, and now I come back home, and it's way smaller of a shape. It's getting there faster. Like it's just different. So I spend a whole nother game trying to readjust back. So when you look at it like that, like 30% of your season is either you're in that one game flux period, and sometimes that flux period leaks into game two, or say you're coming off the bench as a player, like now you're completely, it's not like you're getting in a regular bat. So anyway, it's very different, and you're constantly trying to adjust back to elevation or back to sea level, and it just makes things more inconsistent. I think for that reason you're going to see players at Coors Field be more inconsistent. You're going to see a little bit of streakiness. You're going to see some swing and miss. There's just more variables to overcome, and
Yeah.
it makes it difficult.
I couldn't agree more. And obviously, the pitchers are the ones that get all the obvious credit for it. Like, they're like, oh, how do you deal with this? How do you deal with that? But I've always been beating the drum for a long time. Coors has attacks on the position players too, and it might show up in an unexpected way. And a lot of it is, that first couple games on the road. It's very noticeable. I mean, even as a pitcher, it's like if I'm calibrating my sweeper where I feel like I have to start it to land it in the zone, all of a sudden on the road, that pitch is another 5, 6 inches, and now it's a ball. So I have to recalibrate. And guys that would take that seriously in catch play had a big leg up on the guys that didn't. So
Yeah.
that was
It
great.
was last year, 2 year or a couple years ago, one of my last few years, we started addressing this more and trying to get better at it, and we dove into the numbers. And the obvious thing was like that, I just mentioned it, like the first game on the road after being at home. And then after looking into the numbers as a team, we were actually worse first game at home after being on the road. Um, so like
Yep.
just coming back doesn't solve problems, like
Yeah.
it's just a different set of problems. There's just, like more problem, like you just have to deal with it, and if you're an opposing team and you come in once a year, like whatever, like, like you probably aren't in tune enough to know exactly what's happening. You just know things feel different, and then you make your adjustment, and and then you leave, and then you never have to think about it again. But if if that's your home park, you've got to figure out how to deal with it, because it's there, it's real. Um,
We've
and
got some
we've seen some good players like play there and then leave, and then kind of have a better understanding of like did it really make them or break them as players? And I don't think. I mean, you can certainly make a case that there's some guys that have a large number of bats at Coors Field and then went elsewhere and were just as good, or some guys worse, some guys even better. So I don't think Coors Field's propping hitters up like it's easy to lead into.
well, I totally agree. I mean, there's so many variables with this. There's the physical part of it too, the recovery part, all that. I mean, there's a million layers to it. I remember talking to you when I went to the Yankees and you were like, "How you feeling?" And it was like July and I'm like, "I'm actually doing pretty damn good. I feel a lot better than I would be if I had been in Denver." And you were like, "Yeah, I suspected that." So it's like, yeah. But we got a couple interesting things in the chat here. I want this person Brett B is saying I wonder if Traject has a cores mode. So like would they change the movement on the pitches, or would it still go back to the aggregate pitch movement for those players when you're trying to face it? Or would, because the air is thinner in the batting cage, would it just not get there? I'm trying to think of how that would work.
I mean, like I said, it could be the same inputs, but if you're at altitude, it's going to be like this whatever shape you'll see at Coors Field that
Okay,
night.
that
So
makes sense.
basically, we'll use the same inputs. Now, the only like that question is like, say it's the day before we go to Coors Field and I'm not in the lineup that night and I'm trying to get ready for the next guy. Like I don't think I could go into the cage in New York and program.
Like a diminished shape or whatever, and then
Yeah, I
yeah.
don't I don't think that's a thing. I mean, I guess you could
Okay.
you're guessing at that point.
Yeah, I was
And
just thinking
before,
about it. We've had so many traject related questions because even in the World Series this year, there was a pitcher who was his arm slot to Savage is so high that it can't be covered on the traject. And when I asked Kike Hernandez about it, he's like, "Yeah, like we had never seen him. We were trying to get some sort of like feeling of his angle, and the machine can't reach it." He's like, "So it
can't
was
get there.
very challenging." And so it's just interesting because like there's been a lot of that type of there's been a lot of questions about that machine since it's been so revolutionary and every team is using it, and the people want to know some of the effects of it. So interesting stuff with that. Question here. Well, first, this is a general question somebody asked. As a pitcher, would you strategically not use your best stuff in spring training? So, kind of to answer this question for you real quick, Marcel, while we're here with Chuck, like in spring training, I was mostly working on like what I did. Like, I wasn't really thinking about game planning for the batter too much. Maybe the very end of spring, I would worry about getting them out more. But for the most part, yeah, I was working on a pitch that I need to get better at, or just throwing strikes or basic stuff like that. I did one time hold back my slider in a blowout game versus Adrian Beltre because it was the first game of a series. And I was like, well, I'm going to have to face him maybe in a big spot later in the series. So I threw him all fastballs. He flew out to the warning track, and I got lucky there. And then later in the series, I threw him some sliders and got him out in a big spot. So you can do that, but it takes a little bit of pre-planning. All right, next question here. AO, did you guys face each other in the Cape in 2005? If I remember correctly, Charlie played for Katuitt when you were at Harvard. Were you in the Cape in '05?
I graduated high school in '04 and then went to the Cape the next summer.
But did you pitch the whole time?
I was a pitcher, so
So,
we probably didn't face each other.
yeah. We did face each other one time, and it's one pitch. It's one pitch. You hit it well.
I think it was probably a cutter,
Yeah.
and I was ready for it.
Oh, you were ready for it. It just went right to Starling. And
I
that
was ready
was it.
for it. Yeah, I was. I thought you would give me too much credit to not just like lay a slider in their first pitch.
I
I
remember
didn't really
being super
give you a
nervous, and then I was like, oh my God, it's right at him.
Yeah, so I think I was like kind of ready for it.
Yeah. I waited a long time.
I've got to count that as a win for like for me, right? Like as a hitter, I
Oh,
can
yeah.
only
Oh,
do
yeah.
so
Oh, yeah.
much.
Oh, yeah.
And right there, I scouted, I was right.
Yeah.
Whatever. You made a good pitch. It got caught. Like whatever. Like that. That's one of those things where I've got to say, that's a win. Now, if you throw me a slider right there that strike the ball, I probably swing and miss at it completely, but I still would probably tell myself like, hey, that was the right decision. I gave myself a chance to like hit the ball hard.
Yeah. I don't remember. I don't remember what I was thinking. I just remember the inning in this game kind of got away from me because Grichuk got a hit on the first pitch. It's a one-run game, so that means he's automatically going to steal second, which is, I'm sure, what happened. And then I was in deep shit, and I had to punch my way out of it. I think I struck out Moustakas here, yeah, to then set up Chuck. And I remember I'd been hoping to face you for a long time, just for fun, since we were teammates. But
I
like,
just
yeah,
I just assumed I was like there. I just felt like you were gonna not throw me your best pitch like right out of the gate the
I
most.
think
I,
you were
I, I
right.
felt like you would try and go off the menu, as you say, and throw something that you wouldn't normally do. I was like, he's gonna try and sneak this cutter in or something like that. So
How hard you hit? I mean, you hit it 101 basically. You did your job, as we said. But I don't know. I got lucky there. It's just crazy because most of my career I wasn't in this spot. Like in the ninth inning, I was mostly in the eighth inning. So if I was in there, it was to face some righties. I might get one tough lefty every now and then. But I remember like when I pitched against the Rockies when I was with the Yankees. I got the righty run of the lineup, and then I got pulled right out of there. So I never got to face you. I was always like, damn, like we've talked a lot of baseball. I'd love to have the opportunity to face Chuck, preferably with nobody on. Of course, the one time I faced you, the game's on the line. So, but
it's always tough, like tough when you're in there and you only face the guy you're not supposed to face if too many people reach. So it's like I'm only going to face this guy in a tough situation, or I get pulled. So anyway, congrats to you. Like glad to be part of that save. Like way to go.
it's so weird though. I had like 4 saves versus the Rockies, and like only like I don't know 10 saves after leaving the Rockies. So it's kind of weird. But I don't know. I always imagine facing you because I knew how hard you studied. So it was one of those things where I was always just like, man, I wonder if I could outthink him. But one pitch, clearly wrong, and we never got another opportunity. Oh, that's too bad.
I felt like you prepared similarly. Like, there's no way I was going to come up and you hadn't already figured out what you wanted to do.
Yeah, exactly.
And so, like having said that, I think, in my opinion, especially late in the game, like these guys are nasty. Yeah, I don't want to get to the slider with two strikes. I think, runners on base. I mean, I think those are the situations where I want to use all three of my strikes. Like, look for something specific and give myself a chance to hit it first pitch, which is what happened. Uh, as to where earlier in the game, maybe against a starter, I'd be much more likely to like take a pitch, work the at bat, try and get some more information, knowing that I was going to face him a second or sometimes third time around. There's just no reason to do that with those late inning guys.
Yeah, no, I think you had the right approach as usual. So I'm not surprised there. I did have one last question. I mean, we could talk forever about a million different things, but I'll get you out of here today and we'll do it again some other time. I did have a question a little bit about outfield play at Coors, um, especially center field. Brenton Doyle has been rated extremely highly out there. He's very fast, he's got a great arm. I always felt like it was just an impossible task with the sizes of the gaps. And you have to make a lot of business decisions. Like, am I playing deeper? Am I playing more
Hmm.
shallow? Do I do an extreme gap shift? And they're all just sketchy bets to make because there's too much ground
Yeah.
to cover. What did you what did you learn taking on that challenge over time?
Um, I'll start with this. I mean, this probably ruffles some feathers, but the metrics aren't right. Like they're wrong. I don't know if they're continuing to change these WAR metrics, but outfielders get hammered for being an outfielder at Coors Field, and I'm assuming it's because with the fences being deeper and the outfield deeper, if it gets by you, there's just a much more likely chance that it's either a double or a triple, right? So, uh, if
So
you play
there's
the
more
same,
run value on those types of
yeah,
balls.
and so I think that's hammering the player, from a defensive war, and maybe like maybe they've changed it in the past couple of years, and I will say that if you could look at the stats, there's only been like a handful of guys turn in an above average defensive season at the center field position. I
Well,
believe. Of course,
In B War, I think they use like DRS, which is a broken, stupid stat anyway. So like your baseball reference war is going to get murdered,
yeah,
playing out
and
there.
and the problem there is like now they're tying in, like defensive metrics are such a big part of just war in general. I think it's like disproportionately high that it's bringing all of the Rockies outfielders WAR down, which in the future it looks like they're trying to tie uh, compensation and arbitration dollars directly to WAR. So like like
You can
Rockies players,
manipulate that easily. I mean, yeah.
yeah, I mean Rockies players should be definitely against it. So having said that, you've got a couple options, right? Like the outfield's way bigger. There's just more space to cover. Do you want to cover your space by backing up and possibly limiting the extra base hits, which I think is probably the right move? Like I'd rather give up some space in front of me that drops as a single rather than play really shallow and give up stuff over my head that's almost certainly a double or a triple.
Hmm.
Um, but I think it gives you some room as an outfielder to decide like what's more important. Where does the game tell me to play? If it's a really tight game, I'm probably going to back up and give the guy a single. And we were always good at turning double plays and
Yep.
with a great infield. So like, I'll take my chances there and make them bang out two or three more hits before they score, rather than get really aggressive, let one ball get over my head. Now there's a guy on second or even third. And then, anything happens,
I think that's a
it's,
great answer, though. You're playing to the scoreboard. You're playing to win. And I think a lot
yeah,
of guys are just certainly just trying to play for defensive metric, play for the
yeah,
war. Like, Kevin Kiermaier won all the Gold Gloves originally on the strength of playing a little deeper. Now he's unbelievable in general. I mean, I'm not trying to poo-poo him, but then a lot of other guys noticed that, and teams started, marking in the outfield like, oh, if you play deeper, your value will go up because you're taking away extra base hits, which have higher run value. That goes into the equation, weighted heavier. Whereas the greatest center fielder that we've ever watched, Andrew Jones, played shallow, trying to take away singles because the thought process there was, I have a great pitcher on the mound. If a guy barrels a ball, that's his fault, and I'll go back and do my best effort. But I want to take away all these cheap hits,
Mhm.
keep base
Yeah.
runners off. And to me, that always made a lot of sense as a pitcher. Like, I'm not trying to give up a ball to. I'm not expecting you to catch a ball right up against the fence. But I understand metrically it works in an inverse relationship. So it's a very complicated strategy. But to me, it's refreshing to hear a guy talk about, well, what's the situation? Let's win this ball game. And I think that's probably
Yeah,
the right way to attack
if
it.
it's a 5-run game and I'm near the bottom of the order and he's behind in the count, like I'm scooting in. Like if one guy hits a triple when we're up 5, like that's fine. But he's much more likely to like dink one over the second baseman. Like I'm gonna try and take that away. But I do think that whole outfield play is kind of one of the final frontiers where teams can really move the needle. It's going to be hard to pick up on it as a fan, but there's these vast amounts of data that teams have, and some teams are getting really, really good at figuring out where to play their guys. Like depending on who's pitching, what kind of defender is my outfielder, what's the game. Like there's a ton of inputs that they can put in here, and these guys got these cards now where they know like where to line up. Like I think there's some very proprietary information going on
There is.
from team to team, and I would guess it's pretty obvious most teams play deeper when they come to Coors Field. And I've seen some teams play like obnoxiously deep. Like if there's a guy that's not a great defender, like he's 330 feet from the plate. Like he's just basically just playing wall ball back there and just trying not to like botch it.
Yeah.
Like I don't think that's the right answer either.
I showed when DJ was on the show. I recalled an at bat where the Padres had a crazy shift where everybody was like to right field. Like John Jay was playing center for the Padres, and he was like literally like in straightaway right center. And DJ
They
hit
would
a
just pinch the gap on him,
yeah.
and they
DJ hit a
murder the
line
ball.
drive up the middle and got a triple on what would have been a single.
I've also seen him crush some balls that should have been triples in the.
Oh, and then they were caught.
And they were caught. So
Yeah.
I don't
Oh,
know.
that's great.
They need to change. We need to evaluate outfielders differently. I played some center field, and there was a time when I was running really well. One of the years I stole a bunch of bases, that I had a really high like route efficiency score
Mm-hmm.
as a center fielder, and I was running well that year, and I was also like way below average defensively.
Hmm.
Which seems like, well, like how many other? I mean, I guess I could be getting late jumps.
Yeah, there's first step
But
quickness, and then there's route efficiency at the time. I think those were the only two metrics, right?
yeah, but if I'm like running fast and running good routes, like, am I really getting that? As a center fielder, where I think you have a
Yeah.
truer read, it's easier to get a read off the bat than in the corners. Like I just felt like it didn't add up. Like the numbers, the WAR, what defensive WAR, whatever those metrics weren't right. I think don't look at an outfielder, and if his numbers aren't great as a defender at Coors Field, I wouldn't write him off.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
will
no,
say,
totally,
like
yeah.
I've seen Doyle play center field, and he's far and above, way better, than I ever was. He was way better than, when I was around. Dexter Fowler was out there. Like he's just, I mean, he's just a unit, man. He's bigger, faster, stronger. He throws the ball 100 miles an hour.
I think that might be part of it too, is the throwing arm, because obviously first to thirds, like there's extra bases taken on the base pass a lot of cores, and if you can cut that down a little bit, I think that weighs pretty heavily for arm value. I think that would like anytime you're discouraging an obvious extra base that could be taken. I don't know. So
Yeah,
I'm curious about that because at one point Nolan Jones and him were like literally the top two in arm strength from the outfield
for sure.
in the Grandes, which is helpful when you got to throw it an extra 30 feet. You know.
Yeah. I used to watch Carlos Gonzalez, right? A real special player. He played right field, and he would like kind of hang back on balls and kind of bait guys to go first to third. Now he would throw people out, like doing it because he was a special player.
Yeah.
And but I saw also like it's just such a long you are throwing the ball 30 feet longer than like Cincinnati, and you know
I used to watch that too. I used
I
to,
saw it
yeah,
not work sometimes too,
yeah,
like and it would come back and bite us. And when I played right field, like I was under the it was my decision to basically
get it in.
try and get to the ball as quick as I could and just try and get that guy to throw up a stop sign at third. And that was like my win. Like I'm just not trying to throw people out. I would try and keep the guy from advancing based on how I pursued the ball, and then got a lot of assists by hitting my cutoff man and having good like infielders redirect the throw on the infield and get like the batter runner trying to advance to second.
You know
Like
who
getting
I You know who I thought was really good at it was GP, Gerard Opara. Like he was always quick, short arm stroke, didn't do a ton of baiting. I mean, definitely Cargo and like Puig are two guys we saw do a lot of baiting. At times it would work. But yeah, it's
Mhm.
too far. It's like just get it in, cut him
Yeah.
down, you know. So wait, when you moved off center field, they moved you to right field because Coors is so big and left. So right field's a little bit smaller, maybe, and you have a little bit different angle with that big wall out there.
Right field is much smaller, Coors Field, being that the gap is way bigger in left center than right center. And also like it's closer to the dugout playing right field. So it was like a way bigger rest on my body to move to right than to move to left. I just don't. I think the days of outfielders being big, clunky, bad defenders. Like I think there's too much value out there, especially at Coors Field with the
Agreed.
outfield being bigger. Like I think defense is more of a premium. Like I just don't think you're going to see that as much as you used to. You're going to see these guys like Mookie Betts who can legitimately play center field, play a corner, and then just be a huge defensive asset. Like I think you're going to see teams move towards that, right? You've seen
Yeah.
the Diamondbacks did that with they had basically three center fielders. They kind of positioned themselves really well coming into that new base stealing, like only two pickoff attempts. They positioned their personnel ahead of that, and that's why I think a big part of why they were really successful the first year or two of that new rule change. You're seeing the teams make really good decisions, in the front office about like who do I want on my team, why do I want them there. It's
There's no doubt that the complete player is being more prioritized now. Like if you can't do something on both sides of the ball, it's tough. It's a tough sell. You'd have your outlaw. You're if you're a power guy and like that's it. You're a clunky, just a great hitter with huge power. Like that skill has to be so far above league average to carry you. Like if otherwise, you better have some other, some other complementary abilities, base running, defense, especially. There's just too many. First of all, the rules, as you mentioned, but also just the way that we're looking at things. I also think the way that things are paid for. Like I remember when I met with David Stearns, who runs the Mets. One of the first things he was telling me was that defense is so undervalued on the market, or it was at the time relative to the hitting. So he felt like that was just the low hanging fruit. Oh, well, we improve the club defensively. We can do that a lot cheaper, and then we can
yeah.
have more money to spend on the bat that we need or whatever. And I was like, oh, okay, makes sense. But I also think the quantifying it, to your point, is still in the gray area. I still don't think we have it perfectly pegged. So we're in an interesting time right now with the revolution on that end, I think.
I do like that there's still different business models that different teams can have to where they think that they can find a competitive advantage to run their team. It helps. It's great that the Dodgers can go out and sign all these big, awesome players, but they also have they're drafting well. They can trade and still have a system from which to pull from. Like that's the business model everybody wants is go sign the best players. But that's like the two or three teams on the coast, and everybody else is there's some teams out there that are pinching pennies and waiting for their profit sharing check and not extending anybody beyond arbitration, and they've been pretty good. And there's some teams that are really incredible at evaluating their talent in house and making some like super impact trades, and they're like maybe really good at selling high on their players, like deciding like, hey, this is this guy's peak value. Let's trade him and cash him in for some younger chips before we have to pay him. Like there's different room. There's room for different types of business models, and if you're really good at it, I think you can find a competitive advantage in that sector. Whether it's identifying undervalued defensive talent, and adding that to your team for cheaper than it's worth, like that brings value. And I think there's teams that have a really good idea of what it is they're doing well and how to make players better. And so I think it's just super exciting, right? Like, so don't, like there's so many moving parts in baseball. It's such an incredible game. Like don't get down because your team isn't, signing Otani and every, best player on the market. Like that's great. Like maybe find a way to really embrace what your team does well. And uh, so anyway, it's cool. I mean, it's such a great game, and there's always a game within the game, and that's one of my favorite parts about it. And it's been fun for me now to like move to the non-player side of things and kind of hang around the front office and do some special assistant stuff, and just kind of look more big picture instead of figuring out how I'm going to get a hit on Monday.
Yeah.
I can look and say, man, down the road we're going to need this or that, or this is where the game's going, and we got to get out ahead of it. And so I think it's been fun to look, watch the game like that as a fan now, and not so much of a player with tunnel vision.
Yeah, I agree totally. And obviously every city has its own set of variables, but I think I've always thought what the Rockies have going on, it's just one of the more interesting ones because it's so obvious that you can do things differently there, and so that's exciting. Rather than trying to carbon copy some other place, you have a whole different set of challenges. So that's exciting, and they have the right guy because obviously you played there pretty much outside of Todd. You probably played the most baseball games ever in Denver, so it's pretty awesome, pretty crazy. You were there a long ass time, Chuck.
But thank you. Yeah, very lucky. I think that's definitely a two-way street, right? I'm thankful to have the opportunity to be around long enough, and then also you got to be like somewhat productive to where they want you there too.
Yeah,
So
no, you're a great
it's
player.
it's been fun. And so anyway, it's incredible how things change so fast. And I missed like one season so far, but it's like the names change so fast.
It's a young game.
It's getting younger, and it seems like there's a lot of turnover. And the best players are still the best players to some extent, but there's some like pretty exciting young players. And there's so much more information now too. Like so much about these top prospects.
Yeah.
And it's an exciting time, and there's so much information out there. Like what this guy's stuff looks like. You know how fast he is. I guess it's good for you. We got stuff to talk about in January.
Yeah, I bet we did top prospects. We've looked at all the. It is crazy. It is true. I mean, you can look under the hood at a million different aspects of a player, and you could never do that before. So, I don't know. It's a very exciting time, and this was a great conversation. I would love to have you on again. This is great.
Yeah, let's do it.
I think we just gave a lot of good nuggets to the people out there, so I really appreciate it, man. And sending nothing but love to you and the fam. And I'll be in touch. And thanks for coming on today, Chuck.
All right. Thanks, Otto. Keep
All
it
right.
up.
You're the best. See ya. All right. That was my guy, Charlie Blackmon. Obviously, he just gave us a freaking, master class in adjustments, mindset, the computer that is his brain, how he thought about things. That was really fun. And there's so much more. There's so much more. Non-Coors Field, million other baseball topics. Great ball player, one of the smartest ball players I ever played with. I mean, he's definitely in the top 3, which says a lot because obviously I played with a lot of ball players. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go make sure that the house isn't getting burned down right now, and then I'll come back and we'll talk for a second. We'll talk for a little bit about a few things, and then I'll say goodbye for today, but I want to go make sure that the house isn't getting burned down. So give me one moment, and I'll be right back. All right, we're back. The house is not burned down. Everybody's here. Um, yeah, let's do a couple things real quick, and then we'll call it a day. Have a have some stuff to do, and there's a lot going on. So let me just write back to a text message real quick. Um, all right, so Braves signed Jorge Mateo. Is that a major league deal? Dano, Dan M. I don't know. All right. Let me go to trade rumors. There was a couple moves here, some small ones. Ryan Presley retired, tremendous pitcher, big time playoff pitcher. I think is the biggest thing with Ryan Presley. Um, Played with him in the WBC, great dude. Definitely got old, just like all of us. Struggled a little bit with the Cubs last year, decided to hang it up. But I wanted to just really quick get into his postseason pitching because it is ridiculous. 47 games, 2.78, with 14 major league postseason saves, including getting the final out of a World Series. So very cool. Wanted to show that. We did also. Ooh, I found a really cool site yesterday. It's called 11.7.com, home of college baseball. However, they have a World Baseball Classic page, and now we can go look at the rosters, which is legit. Because they have it all up here. So let's just go look at that USA because Bregman is now in. As soon as he signed with the Cubs, he decides to go in. And this is what we're looking at. Now they have Bregman now as the starting third baseman on Team USA. Very excited for this one. This is going to be probably just about the coolest. This is the dream team for US. I mean, I know they don't have Mookie, and you could probably find a couple players that they would like to have, a couple pitchers maybe, but overall, this is very strong. Raleigh catching, Schwarbs DHing, Harper first, Gunner now at second. So Terang gets booted to the bench, it looks like. He'll play, though. Bobby, Breggy, Corbin, Buxton, Judge. With also the bench players, there's quite a few of those as well. Don't see them here, but there's quite a few that are very good. Terang, Clement, and then there's another catcher. But we'll see. We'll see how this all works out. PCA is also now technically a bench player. Team USA versus the Dodgers would be so fun to watch. So Ellie De La Cruz out of WBC, huh? Let's look at that Dominican current team right now. This is what we know. Soto, J-Rod, Tatis is a joke in the outfield. A joke. Machado, Perdomo, Cattell, Guerrero with Jose Ramirez DHing, and Yernier Diaz catching, also a joke. Tremendous. Right now, confirmed Severino, Peralta, and Sandy, and then Uceta and my guy Wild Thing Estevez in the bullpen. That's pretty damn good. That's pretty damn good right there. It's funny when I look at the Italy one, it has me in here because somehow that got released to the world. But I know a lot more of this, but I can't obviously talk about it. They have some good players. Here's the current Japanese team because this is the big dog team. Morishita in left, Shuto in center, Kensuke Kondo, who's been around forever, and right, grossly good. Sato might be the best player. He's at third base, might be the best player in Japan right now. Sasuke Genda, who's the defensive wizard at short. Shugo Maki at second. Munetaka Murakami at first. Kenya Watasuki at catcher. Obviously, Shohei DHing. Yoshi, Ito, Kikuchi, and Shohei, who probably won't pitch. In the rotation, Taira, Ishii, Tanichi, Ota, Matsui, and Sugano. In the bullpen, Sugano's more of a starter. But this is the other. We just looked at all three big dog teams. This is going to be a fun thing to look through as time goes on. Let me take a quick peek at Venezuela. Hopefully, they do get to compete. Acuna, Abreu, Altuve, Torre, Glaber, and Salvi. That's strong. Eugenio Suarez will probably be on this team and some others. Let's look at Team Puerto Rico for a second. Helio Ramos, Javi Baez, Riley Green, Nolan, Lindor, Correa, Caratini, Maldonado. Very good squad with Edwin and Fernando Cruz in the bullpen, as well as Seth Lugo and Barrios starting. Hopefully Barrios is feeling good. And look, I don't think these are official yet. This is just as much as this site knows about, so that's fascinating. Let me look at Mexico for a second, because that's a team we're going to be facing, so I'm curious. Rosarena, Duran, Aranda, Urias, Tellez, Meneses, Kirk, Aaron Sanchez, who was the lead-on pitcher of the year as the ace, Taiwan, Urquidy, and Cody Ponce, and Alon Rangel and Brandon Bernardino, my guy, rounding out that bullpen. So that's interesting. Little WBC check-in. There was also a signing of Jacob Junis by the Rangers. So let me go to roster resource and see what that does. They said they're going to use him in the pen. Garcia, Chris Martin, Cole Winn, Jacob Junis. Now, Jacob Junis has done some starting. He's done some swingman work. I have to look at Miyagi. I'm sorry about that. But he's also been pretty solid as a reliever the last few years. He's been bouncing around a little bit. I actually met his brother, who's a coach in the Red Sox system, last year in spring training. 2.97 last year in 57 games, and that's 66 and 2/3. So that's 1+. And even the year before that, only 24 games, but a sub-1 whip. So Junis has been pretty good ever since he switched up a lot of his usage. I believe that goes back to maybe the Giants. Was he with the Giants at one point? I thought so. Yeah, with the Giants is when his usage started to switch up. He's bounced around between Cincinnati and Cleveland as of late. 44% slider, so he leads with the slider. It's a sweeper, I believe, based on the movement. Sinker 27, change 20, and only 9% four-seam fastballs, which is he probably threw too many of those when he was younger. But Rangers had a great pitching staff last year. They're going to need to do that again. They're going to need their offense to bounce back. So this is a good move, kind of undervalued, only $4 million for a pitcher who can do so many things. I know he's not throwing hard. I know he's not probably a stuff metric darling. I mean, let's go see what the stuff metrics look like on Junis, and this is probably why he only gets the 1 for 4 despite the excellent results of late. Yeah, has him as a 94 stuff plus. So, I mean, honestly, in the age where people just look at these numbers and they make all of their decisions off of this, I mean, it makes sense why a lot of people wouldn't be on him. But Junis is a good player. He's going to do well for the Rangers. So happy about that for him, and getting a nice landing spot. And the Rangers should be a pretty good ball club. I mean, really, the pitching staff. Let me go back to them for a sec. The pitching staff of Tejas, was very effective last year. DeGrom and Evo coming back. We know about them and their injury issues, but also when they're healthy, how good they are. Jack looking to take the next step. Kumar looking to get back on track. So the bottom of the rotation's not what it was, but I don't mind the bullpen. At least the top 5's interesting. Garcia's really good. Martin's super vet. I'm surprised he's still going. Cole Winn was a super prospect who's up there. Junis, we just talked about. Alexis Diaz was a closer, so if they can get him right. And yeah, Uncle Ted's correct here. They were number 1 in the MLB last year in ERA, so another pitcher to kind of add to that. All right, what else we got here? Braves sign Jorge Mateo. Is this a major league deal? They kind of had to do this because Ha-Seong Kim went down for the year with a freak injury. I saw he slipped on ice, which is sad because a freak injury that's going to take him out for pretty much the majority of this next season. They just signed him to a 1-year, $20 million deal. They had done a lot of maneuvering. Dubon is there, so Dubon can play defense, but he was supposed to be the super utility. He was not supposed to play every day. They were really counting on Ha-Seong Kim. Unfortunately, he's out, so that's going to be really bad. Hand surgery. I mean, really tough. This guy's just been hurt. Torn tendon in the right middle finger. That sucks. Let me go look at the Braves. Obviously, the Mets fans won't be crying tears for the Braves, but this definitely does hurt at the moment. And now Dubon is now penciled in at short in the 9-hole, so that's a big difference. Braves should sell the farm for Geraldo Perdomo. He'd be a great fit. Part of me feels like the Diamondbacks are going for it. Hey, girl. Thank you. So is Archie good? Okay. And if they're going for it, then why would they trade Perdomo? He's a top 5 guy in WAR. However, I do agree you could get a big haul for him based on age and everything. Mateo, so very talented player going back to his days as a Yankee farmhand at the very beginning. Want me to open this for you?
that out.
Be careful because you're gonna don't spill it, okay? Make sure you put it down on the ground on the table very carefully, okay, Archie? Okay? Um so yeah, I mean, tough one for the Braves. They are covered a little bit with Dubon, but I do think they were counting on, I mean, 20 million bucks on Ha-Seong Kim. That's gonna hurt. And there he is, out for the season, basically. So the first really big setback for a team happens before spring training even begins. Damn, if you've seen Bo play, you would know Bo throws off a lot, can't hide bad throws at new position. I do think that, this is something we did discuss the other day when looking at the Mets. I watched some of his throws. He has enough throwing arm. The big deal is how good is Polanco going to be at first base, or whoever's playing first, whether it's Vientos or Polanco, whoever. I mentioned how Peter Morgan Alonso, as Maya pointed out, his full name was really good at scooping. So, scooping balls is kind of an underrated thing that saves your fielders, and it remains to be seen how Bo and his throwing issues will be. It's an interesting signing. Again, it was so reactionary, but it might just work anyway. We have a lot of Blue Jays fans, and Mets fans, so they're going to be supportive of the signing. But we'll see. When didn't a shortstop didn't work at third? That's generalizing. That's not true. Sometimes at third base, the throws are a little more direct, and you can do a little more bouncing. Shortstop, there's a lot of complicated throws there, man. Going to your left, going to your right, deep in the hole, different angle. So again, we'll see, but he's going to have to rake. I mean, look, I agree with you, Kev, because I've shouted out Bo's defensive data, that how it's been declining the last few years, and that was one of my concerns in his free agent profile. But he's not playing short anymore. Third base, at least, if range is his biggest issue, maybe he has a chance, one step and a dive, knock the ball down, and he can be serviceable. He just can't be a train wreck over there. That would be a disaster. And Maya's pointing out an important thing about the Mets. I thought she was talking about up the middle. I saw middle names, and I thought up the middle. The Mets are incredibly strong up the middle defensively, if you think about it. Both catchers are really good, Alvey and Terens. Then you have Semien and Lindor, and then you have whoever there's going to be in center, whether it's Tyrone or Benj. So very, very strong up the middle in terms of defensive acumen. And that's the old adage, is being that strength up the middle. I do think on the corners right now they're weak, and that's why Bellinger is such a good fit. And I'm starting to think he's going to end up a Met, but that's all just hearsay. Just starting to feel that way. We'll see, though. We will see. I think that was my favorite interview, non-Red Sox, you have done. I appreciate that. Thank you. I thought Chuck's so smart. He's the best. So he's the man. So I thought he was great. Okay, not a whole lot going. Chuck Nasty's middle name is Cobb, so everybody's talking about the middle names now. What the fuck is Graham Pauley? Should I know this player? Oh, from the Marlinos. Yeah, I've seen this guy play. I haven't watched him enough, though, to have any idea about his defense. I mean, it's got to be still Chapman, right? Man, Duke guy. Graham Pauley, Dookie. 93rd percentile outs above average, even though he didn't play a ton. So, pretty cool. My middle name is Robert. Adam Robert Ottavino. Man, stop clicking guest screen, Adam. Click this one. There you go. How much do I think Bo will be willing to DH? So we talked about this the other day a little bit, Maya. I think he will, but not that much. Because again, like if he's going to opt out, if that's in the back of his mind, like, oh, I can opt out and get another bite at this free agency thing in the next year or two, then he's going to want to have defensive value. If anything, he's going to want to prove his defensive value. So I think there's a very motivated player to become really good at third, and I think all the incentives line up for him to want to be out there a lot. But, he'll probably DH a little bit because I don't think he's trying to set any games played at third record either. So I think he'll pick his spots to DH, and they'll certainly want him to, but we'll see. Okay. Oh, yeah. West Coast time's tough for the early show. You know, that's why we've done some After Darks on Friday, and it's going to be again this Friday. So we'll see. Oh, yeah. Okay, Giants got Luis Hernandez. Let's do a really quick look at the MLB top international signings. Where do I have that? Man, I have so many pages open. It's insane. MLB international signings. So here's the list. Here's the list of how it went. These were the top ones. These are the top signings from this past year. Giants got Luis Hernandez. They spent $5 million on his bonus, which is basically all of their pool. So you feel pretty good about this guy. I try to look for videos on a lot of these guys, and there really wasn't that much to see. So I'm going to wait for that to load, and then we'll see what we can do. But there's a couple videos on the guy that the Mets got too. Of course, he's wearing a Yankee hat in the video, which is hilarious. But oh yeah, this is just a picture of this dude. This is the $5 million man. I found exactly one YouTube video, but all it was him doing some med ball throws. So there's not really a whole lot here. So let's just read what it says. Gifted with immense physical projection, laundry list of impressive tools. He also gets plus work ethic and baseball IQ. He's the first Venezuelan player ever to rank as MLB Pipeline's #1 prospect in a class. Ethan Salas was also born in the States, so that kind of is a little bit of a fugazi there. I don't know. This is always interesting because if you go look at this list real quick, when I go back, just check out the positions here on this list, which I think is fascinating on its own. Shortstop, outfield, shortstop, outfield, shortstop, outfield, shortstop, outfield, shortstop. See, you have to go all the way down the list to find a pitcher. And the first pitcher you see is this left-handed pitcher, Andre Hidalgo, that the Orioles signed for $622,000. And then a little bit further down, there's a couple righties, Kendry Fana, Frondell Pineda, who signed with the Angels and Rangers respectively. Other than that, the entire top 50 is basically hitters. So let's try to find some Wandy Ossigan YouTube, because I found a little bit the other day, and you can see he's an electric type shortstop. But he's wearing a Yankee hat, which is just so funny to me in the video, because he is a Met now. So nothing more funny than that. Little skinny little twig. This isn't the video I was looking for, but there's the swing. This kid just kind of rakes, obviously. It's a different video I'm looking for here. Where is it? There's one of him playing shortstop defense that's pretty good. Where is it? What is it? This is 3 years ago. This is him 3 years ago, this guy. Now, obviously, he's gotten a lot bigger, but, this is like as a 14-year-old kid in a shitty infield. And you can see just a very flowy, just a very confident player. So, who knows when this guy pops his head out. But if you're looking for super duper stars, a lot of time these guys these are the guys. They get in very young. And then, by the time they're fully big league ready, they're only 19, 20, 21 years old. And they're on the superstar highway at that point. So, very intriguing. Watch this kid take some hacks. Obviously a hard worker, loves to chew his fighting necklace. Seems like an important thing. Already rocking his Yankee shirt, even though he ended up being a Met. Mets stole his ass. We don't know what's going on with the Yankees. They kind of lost everything in their situation. But yeah, I mean, it's crazy. And honestly, who knows about a lot of these guys? But they all get a lot of money. They'll all send that right home, take care of their families, and then they'll begin the ascent to the major leagues. And honestly, the faster you get there, the better. And then you got to try to stick around, and then you could be a young free agent, and then you could be a Juan Soto. But we'll see. Yeah, almost no pitchers, which is crazy. Something happened with the Yankees. I don't know what it is. We're gonna have to stay tuned on that. They basically didn't sign anybody. So, um, and no, and this is a key point. Only the clouds. Before I say goodbye today, when I was in Dominican last year, one thing that I noticed that was incredible is every patch of dirt you look at, there's kids playing baseball. Whether it's with bottle caps, real baseballs, you name it. There's usually an OG that's kind of helping them with their training. You know, they're dragging tires, hitting trees, doing whatever it takes because they love the game. They're not inside playing Fortnite. So it doesn't really matter where you are. Baseball is a sport that's for everybody. And if you work your ass off, you know, you can see the pot of gold that's waiting you at the end. Kyle Tucker, 4 years, that's 60 million a pop. So no reason to not attack it full force. And also, it's just a really fun thing to do, and be outside with your friends. So I thought that was amazing, and I thought, man, these American players are doomed compared to these Dominican players because they're outside all day wanting it. So very, very cool. All right, we're gonna call it. We're gonna call it for the day. Don't have an answer to this question. Hold on. I just noticed my 3 up, 3 down tattoo. There we go. Thanks. Nolan said the good way to get good defensively is just play and get reps, which is all these guys do every day. And that's the thing. The more you play, the better you're going to be. Yankees dismissed Edgardo Mateo, former assistant, and Danny Rowland. So a lot of stuff's going on, but we're just going to have to wait and see what it is because it's odd. Yankees dominate this market, and they signed exactly 0 of the top 50. So that's a very interesting place to be. All right. Big game tonight in winter ball. I'll be tuned into that. Toros and Aguilas at 7:30 tonight. Basically, the winner goes on to the championship. So both teams are going to throw everything they have at that. So that's a very fascinating winter ball game tonight. If you guys want to check that out, I will be back on Wednesday. Hope you guys enjoyed that talk with Charlie. I'll put that up on the audio feed, on the podcast feed, probably later in the day. I really appreciate you guys hanging with me. Big thanks to Chuck. And I will see you again on Wednesday. All right. Adios. Got to go take care of the monkeys. Have a great one. See you, fellas. See you guys. Love you.